No one's perfect. So why do I try so badly to be perfect? It's kind of a question I've been asking myself lately. Um, I'm a chronic perfectionist. I really like for everything to be perfect. Everything that I do, everything that I think about. And it's a very demotivating part about my personality. And I think it's very detrimental to who I am as a person. And to give you some context, this is probably my fifth time recording this intro, just because in all these other ones I was stuttering, or I would get off topic too quickly, or I'd mess up in some way, and I didn't like that, so I would restart it. And I think that already shows myself that I'm not doing a very good job at trying to be better, but I want to be better. I think that being a perfectionist has not helped me in any way in my life at all. And I want to do better. So that's why I'm going to be making this series. Just kind of something to start myself off in the right direction. I think that uploading some videos where I can kind of talk about, things that are bothering me and things that I'm thinking about, I think it'll help me kind of get out of that shell, or get out of that, idea that I'm not really, great. I feel like I phrased that wrong, but it's okay. That being said, like I said, I'm a perfectionist, and I think it's not a very great aspect about myself. It makes doing things really difficult. The past year, probably now, I think it was probably last November when I started wanting to get into fashion. I'm very basic with how I dress, mainly just a plain t-shirt and plain shorts. And that's pretty much every day of the week, every week of the year. So pretty much 24/7. And I've never been upset with it. I don't think I look bad. But I think I want to try something different. And and I'll talk about this a little bit in a future episode, because I think it'll connect more to that topic a little bit better. But that being said, I have this problem where I kind of will, in the middle of the night, I will get this insane surge of motivation or energy, and I'll go online and I'll find a couple shirts that I think are really cool, right? I'm really into Resident Evil, and so I'll find these cool Resident Evil t-shirts, and I'm like, damn, I want those. But then something always prevents me from buying them, and it's because I'm afraid that even though I like them, I'm going to wear it, and it's not going to be what I expected. It's not going to be perfect. I have this idea that that everything I do and everything, I try needs to be perfect on the first attempt. There's no room for error. And so I think about it, and I'll think about, what if the size is just slightly off, right? What if it doesn't feel exactly how I want it to feel? And it really demotivates me at times like that, where I want this thing, but I somehow convince myself that I don't, and it's demotivating. It's not something that I enjoy. I feel like I have to look perfect in it the first try, and so the fear of not looking good in it on the first attempt is enough to demotivate me, right? Because anyone who tries something the first time is not going to be good at it, and if they are good at it, it's kind of not the norm, right? People are more likely to be bad at something if they never tried it before, and so I'm afraid of breaking out of that norm and pushing myself to do something that I've never done before. like, for example, with streaming and making YouTube videos, I've always wanted to do that, but I always was like convincing myself that, oh, my mic's bad. I need to get a new mic. I need to buy, a new mic for better quality, and I would always tell myself I'll do it, and then I never do it. Right? This perfectionism of wanting everything to be perfect, the audio quality to be perfect and stuff, it leads me to procrastinate. And I think that's kind of the worst part about it is the procrastination. Just because it pushes me deeper into this hole where I feel like I can't do it. And then, like, making a Minecraft world. That's another really small example of my perfectionism. I'm doing something new. I've never built a house like this before. I always try to go for something aesthetic and something perfect, right? I watch all these YouTubers that kind of, set this idea in my head that everything I build in this game needs to be perfect. But this is the first time I'm trying something new with that, and kind of just trying to just do things one at a time and see how it all works out. And like creative ideas of mine, I get affected by my perfectionism. I like to write. Well, I guess that's an overstatement. I feel like I'm a very creative person, but I don't have the experience and the motivation to express that creativity through like any sort of creative outlet. I'll sit at night and I'll think about how cool it would be to have this specific character type in a story, and how like I've never really seen this character type anywhere else in fiction. And so I'll be like, okay, I'll write a story kind of about that person. And then I don't, because I realize I don't know how to write. I'm not a professional writer. And so I get myself into thinking that whatever I do isn't going to be good enough. And it really affects me. And same thing with, like, I've wanted to make a game for so long because I like telling stories. But anytime I get the motivation to download Unity or like Unreal, I realize I have to go through the process of learning this. I'm not going to be perfect at it just starting out. And that it's a huge obstacle for me. And it's something that I don't necessarily like. I want to learn things. I want to not think that I can do everything expertly on the first try. But it's an issue for me. I struggle with it. Even something as small as like creating this channel, right? I have a main YouTube account that I don't post on it, but I thought about posting on it, like doing this kind of video on it. But I didn't want to set the standard for it as low as I am for this video. I won't be doing any editing, I don't think. So there's going to be stutters, there's going to be filler words. You might hear noises from my mouth as I'm swallowing or something. You might hear background noises. It's not perfect, right? That's what I'm trying to get across. And so I didn't want that to be on my official YouTube channel, just because I didn't want that to be imperfect, right? So I literally had to create a new YouTube channel just to make this video and start a series like this. And I feel like perfectionism affects me in a lot of different ways. I've already mentioned these before, but it makes me very afraid to start things, right? Like, I take a look at the process and I realize that I'm going to mess up somewhere, right? Because everyone makes a mistake on their first attempt of something. And so I realize that I'm going to make a mistake somewhere, and it's not going to be perfect, and it upsets me. And I don't like that it does. And even when I end up doing something right, like, for example, like I'll build a house in Minecraft, and then I kind of realize, you know, I see the flaws in it. Even after finishing it, I see the flaws in it rather than the progress that I've made, right? Instead of taking a minute to think and say, you know, I did a good job at that house, or it looks good, I immediately see the flaws in it. I say, well, that looks a little bit weird, and I want to fix that, and which is, you know, it's fine to want to fix things, right? But to not acknowledge any of the progress that you've made at all is kind of missing the point of learning something. And I think that I miss that. I don't ever stop to think about the progress that I've made since starting out something, you know, and I feel like I'm chasing this impossible standard that I can't reach, so it just leaves me feeling burnt out all the time. I'll be watching a Minecraft video, and I see someone build something really cool, and then I'm like, okay, I want to build that too, or I want to build, you know, I want to start building something. Use all this motivation I've been feeling to kind of build something, right? I'm feeling creative now after watching the video, and then I kind of start and I realize, yeah, whatever I'm building isn't as good as whatever they built, and then, you know, it just leaves me burnt out, right? And so most of the times I just close Minecraft, and I end up letting the day go by without doing anything, and I convince myself that I'll do it later, or I'll do it another time. So I get this, like, really bad sense of procrastination, just kind of from getting burnt out. And I never end up doing these things. And then, you know, when I do want to do these things, I'll get these waves of, you know, productivity, right? I'll think to myself, you know, oh, I'm feeling really productive. I want to, you know, build a mega base or start a mega base. And then I'll get 5 minutes in, and then I'll realize, like, this is a lot of effort. This is a lot of stuff that I am not great at, and so then I end up quitting. And then it really weighs me down. I don't like feeling this way, but it's really hard for me to kind of accept that I have problems. So I end up feeling this kind of sense of, I feel like there's something wrong with me, even though it's kind of a normal thing to want to, you know, be good at something. But I think I just missed the point that, you know, you're not going to be good at something when you first start it. Anyways, another thing too is that I don't know who I'm trying to be perfect for. I've kind of thought about, you know, why I'm a perfectionist. And I think about, you know, am I trying to be perfect for other people? Or am I trying to be perfect for myself? Because I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. I think it's got to do something with, you know, my self-esteem, and I want to be good at stuff because I want to feel good about stuff. But I really don't know exactly which one it is. And that being said, it's kind of just something that's been bothering me. And I said this at the beginning of the video, probably. I don't know if it was this take or if it was another take, so I'm just going to say it again. But my real hope for this series is that there's someone who has the same problem as me, right? Someone who also feels like they can't get anywhere in life just because their perfectionism stops them. I'm hoping that someone has that same problem, and then instead of feeling like they're alone, you know, I want them to know that even though I don't know how to fix my own problems, right? I don't have the solution. I want them to know that there's someone out there who has the same issues as them, and that they're not alone. Because I think that's kind of something that has affected me. I feel like I'm alone in all these struggles, but I'm not, because there's people out there. There's so many people. There's billions and billions of people, and so there's people that are going to have the same problems as you. But I think that's kind of my biggest issue, or the biggest point I want to make. It doesn't really matter if you're not perfect, right? And I think I need to get there too. If I'm trying to be perfect for myself, why am I not happy with the progress that I make, right? I think something that I've been thinking about is, why do I try so hard to impress myself with all these things instead of just being impressed by myself, right? Like, I think one of the things I need to learn, and that I'm going to try to implement moving forward, is learning to appreciate what I've done and not demeaning myself for what I haven't done. I think that's kind of something that once I learn, I'll be much more able to kind of fix my own problems, at least regarding my perfectionism. And then, sorry, I'm kind of trying to finish this up before I call off the video. Anyways, I think that perfectionism is something that affects a lot of people, and it's kind of something that I hope I can get over. And then we'll, with time, I hope this is something that I can kind of figure out for myself. And I think, honestly, I'm done with the little project I was starting here, just the house. So I'm going to call it for today. I'm not really doing this series out of anything other than that I want to see progress with myself, and that I want to maybe help one person, right? It doesn't matter if no one watches this or if one person watches this. If it helps anyone, that's good enough for me. I am going to be uploading consistently. I have a few more topics I want to go over. Hopefully I can get better at conveying my points. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys in the next one.